We're talking money and handling debt and credit cards with Janae Adams from Debt Sucks University and Nathan Grant from Credit Card Insider. They're taking your questions for this next segment, all about money. All right, so this question, Janae, is how do you handle student loan late fee interest that has accrued during the pandemic?
Yeah, so if you had a federal student loan, you shouldn't have had any interest or late fees since last March through this upcoming September. So if that is happening to you, you need to call Department of Education and get that fixed and get all your money back. If you have private student loans, unfortunately, you're going to have to just pay that back. You don't have any rights or anything that you can do about that.
That you are stuck with that bill right there. All right, Nathan, this person said, I've tried a couple places to improve my credit score, really haven't seen a change. Do you know of any suggestions on how I can improve it?
Yeah, well, most places that offer to help you build your credit scores, they can't really do anything that you can't do yourself. And at the end of the day, it always comes to what kinds of activity you're doing to pay off your debt. So, the standard recommendations, always pay your bills on time, avoid late payments, make at least the minimum, but as much over the minimum. And if you pay off your balances in full, that's going to not just help you avoid interest, but it helps with your credit utilization, which is basically how much of your credit is being used. So that is something that can help your credit scores. And if you are paying off that debt and you're closing the accounts right away, you're actually possibly affecting your scores negatively because the age of your average accounts is one of the positive factors that can go into your credit scores.
All right, so this is kind of like a follow-up. They're asking, what is the best way to build up your credit coming off of bankruptcy? And so, bankruptcy has a lot of intricacies that not many people know about. So, Janae, what are some things that you would say to someone who has filed bankruptcy?
Yeah, I would definitely tell them to start building back up their financial life. So first and foremost, what I tell everybody is to get at least $1,500 saved in an emergency fund. What it's going to do is any future emergencies, they won't go back to debt. And they're actually start getting on a better foot financially going forward. So that's the first main step for those coming out of bankruptcy.
All right, and so you're saying it's a mindset change.
Yes, it definitely is a mindset change. You've already went through the bankruptcy. Let's start on a positive note, building your life back up.
All right, Nathan, this person's asking, why do credit card companies lower your spending limit if you don't use your card very often?
Well, every credit card company, whether it's an issuer or a bank that's putting these cards out, they all have different terms. And some cards don't change, even if you're inactive with the cards for a while. Some cards, you might be paying an annual fee to have the card, so you want to make sure you're at least making back that. But it's really just depends on the company. They want to, keep you as a customer, and some of them want to have you show regular activity with it. But I just recommend that you can do that, but always with stuff that you are going to be able to pay in cash anyway. So that way you're not, like Janae said, building up debt, unnecessary debt. If it's something that you were going to pay anyway, you might want to use a card from time to time, especially if you can get some rewards from the card that you're using.
Okay. Janae, this person says, I have a card that went to a collection agency and I've tried to settle the account, but the collection agency won't lower the amount below $200. What's my next step?
Yeah, so that's their rules, and so because it's their rules, you're going to have to follow by their rules. You only can negotiate what you can negotiate, and when they say this is it, you have to pay what they say you have to pay.
You are stuck with that payment, so make it, right?
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah,
Nathan,
pretty much.
This person says, are cashback credit cards worth their annual fees?
That's kind of one of those things that it depends on the individual because depending on some annual fees are like $50, some of them are $200, but usually the higher the annual fee, the more rewarding the card is. So I always recommend, as long as you're not using the card for things that you weren't planning on paying anyway, you might be able to make up the value of those cashback cards by using it on those purchases that earn the most rewards. Some cashback cards have specific categories that earn more, so just keep that in mind. And when you are applying for cards and maybe considering a card with an annual fee, just keep that in mind right from the outset, so that way you can get the best bang for your buck.
Okay. This is kind of a complicated question. It may be one of those things where we have to answer it by email later, but I'll throw it out there and see if either one of you. I had a foreclosure and a repossession problem 17 years ago. Can they still hold that against you and keep you from obtaining a credit card?
Well, most stuff comes off your credit reports after 7 years. Even bankruptcy, which we talked about earlier, I think the worst form of it stays on for like 13 years. So they shouldn't be able to hold it against you. But pay attention to your credit scores and your credit reports regularly, so that way you can see what specifically is affecting your credit scores, and maybe that way you can find out what is specifically holding you back from being able to get the things you're trying to get now.
All right, Janae, anything to add on that one before I move on?
Yeah, because there might be something else that's on there, and they're thinking it's the foreclosure and the repossession is probably something else that's holding them back.
Gotcha. Okay. This last one is I have federal and state tax debt. I also have student loan debt. Who do I pay first?
Well, definitely right now, the federal and state debt that you have, the taxes and so forth, because student loans are on pause through September. You want to get the federal and state off your back before you worry about private or federal student loans. Trust me.
Okay, private or federal, you're saying. Even if it's a private student loan, you should still pay.
Yeah, even if private, yeah, you can try to pay the minimum on that, but you need to get the tax debt out your life. That's the main one. That's the one that's going to come after you the most.
Yeah, you don't want the IRS or the state coming after you.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. And one last, all right. What we're going to do is we're going to be putting all of these resources for you in the Two Wants to Know section so that you'll be able to listen to the questions and the answers again, and maybe even share it with a friend or a family member who maybe needed to hear that question and answer. It'll all be in the Two Wants to Know section.